This is Caiden Barbero's nursery, an adorable room filled with vibrant colors and a Toy Story theme. It features a crib that anticipates loving Caiden to infinity and beyond. But it will have to wait. Caiden has been here at the Cleveland Clinic since he was born on December 3rd. Doctors don't have a specific timeline as to when he will be able to leave this crib and sleep in his own.
He's got two different conditions. He's got the achondroplasia, which is a dwarfism, and then the condition that he also has, he's got respiratory distress syndrome, which means that his lungs are not capable right now, the size that they are, the size of his chest, to oxygenate his body. So he basically has two conditions.
I felt the same way this morning.
Conditions that were not evident on sonograms and weren't discovered until Caiden was born 6 weeks premature.
Maybe for about 15 minutes, it was kind of like, oh, why us? What did we do? But then after about that, when you just look at him, you just look at him as Caiden. You don't really look at him as somebody that has an affliction.
What he does have is strength. Despite being only 3 pounds 4 ounces at birth, Caiden has endured surgery, MRIs, and has been hooked up to machines since his first breath.
Caiden's a fighter. He's been going through a lot in the last 3 months with his lungs and his heart. And he just keeps fighting away. And we've had a few emergencies here where he's been very close to being very, very, very critical.
Just last week, Caiden underwent a tracheotomy. This surgery will allow doctors to remove the tube from his throat, thus making it easier for Caiden to breathe, be fed, and be moved.
Okay. You want some?
For this, Caiden had to be anesthetized for 5 days.
So what's your day like today?
With Caiden needing attention around the clock, Mr. Barbero and his wife are constantly taking shifts for as many hours as they can.
We do all the work that we can at school, and at 3 o'clock we come here and we spend 6-7 hours with him and go home and do it all over again the next day, kind of thing. You just do it. You don't think, how can I do it? It's just, you just do it.
Caiden and the Barberos are not alone in the struggle they face. They have felt the outpouring support from the Amherst community. In particular, the love extended from the marching band family has been overwhelming.
It's hard to describe, with how supportive everybody is at school. He's a little brother to the whole band. So it was fantastic.
That's pretty good. What do you have on there?
It's still too early to tell exactly what Caiden's future will be, but both the doctors and the Barberos are optimistic for both the short term and the long term.
I don't think we've ever been given a diagnosis that he wouldn't make it. I think in the back of your mind, you're always wondering what if. Sometimes you kind of say, is he going to make it? But a lot of times we don't even think that. We just think, what's next? What's the next step? When can he come home?
For now, the Barberos are taking each day as it comes and are still hopeful that in the near future, they will finally be able to take Caiden home to his own crib. This is Maddie Fulper for Steel News Live.
"43,000 people get diagnosed with leukemia every year. That means 6 people every hour. Nord teacher, Mr. Engle, is one of them. Along with this diagnosis comes the toughest battle of their life.
I didn't think I was going to make it.
But Mr. Engle is not like ordinary patients. He did not fight this battle once, but twice. And he won that battle, not once, but twice.
They've never had a person come back 100% donor after going through a round of chemo. I'm the only person that they've ever seen this happen to. They basically said nothing about me is normal.
After almost 2 years of battling, Mr. Engle is planning on returning soon to one of his favorite places, Nord's gym. Although he's been gone for a while, he still holds a special place in all of his students' hearts.
I miss Mr. Engle because he's a really special person and he was a really good gym teacher.
I miss Mr. Engle because he was a good man and he helped us all at our weaknesses in gym.
He's just not like other gym teachers.
Mr. Engle cares about every one of his students and we can't wait for him to come back.
With all the support and prayers, Mr. Engle knew he wasn't fighting this battle alone.
So even though I felt like I might not make it at one point, I knew I had so much support that I just had to go at it.
And he did. His students joined together and raised $170 through High Fives for Bubba.
What wanted me to help out was that I wanted to help people, and Mr. Engle is a big part, and he was our gym teacher, so I wanted to help him get through this, and I felt like I really needed to, so I did this high fives for Bubba and helped out a lot. So
there are like 170 hands on the wall fighting for Mr. Engle. We really miss him, and we really hope he gets better.
All the support had an enormous positive impact on Mr. Engle, so he knew he had to give back. Despite all of his challenges, he continued to help other people in need.
The students at NOR collected puzzles and hand sanitizers and coloring books, and we created like Bubba bags, and we took it to the kids who were on the pediatric cancer floor.
It was a bone marrow transplant that helped save Mr. Engle's life. Every year, 18,000 patients need a bone marrow transplant. There's an opportunity for you to save a life. On May 31st, there will be a Be in the Match drive hosted here at Redmond's. All you have to do is take a Q-tip and swab your mouth to see if you are a match.
If you feel up to it, please make it out on May 31st at Redmond's Bowling Alley.
Mr. Engle isn't the only one looking forward to his return.
Good, well, we miss you and I can't wait till you come back.
And I hope he gets well soon. I'm pumped for him to come back.
See you soon, Mr. Engle. This is Allie Perkins for Steel News Live.
When you go to school, there are the students, the faculty and staff, and even higher up in the chain, the superintendent. We all know him as Mr. Sayers. The job of the superintendent is always a new adventure depending on the day, but it serves vital to the school district as well as the community.
I'm meeting with building principals. Unfortunately, I have days where I have expulsion hearings where I have to work with students and their parents when students have made poor decisions. Evenings oftentimes involve attending maybe a ball game or a concert or some other school or community function. It really varies by the day, and that's what I enjoy so much about the job.
While the tasks of the superintendent are always changing, for Mr. Sayers, the job is rather exciting. And by coming to Amherst, it was a chance to create excellence.
I knew that Amherst was a district that had a tradition of providing educational excellence, so it seemed like a natural fit. And we were also looking for a great place for our kids to go to school, so it's really worked out well in terms of being a great place to work and a great place for our kids to get their education.
In order to succeed in our everyday lives, we must work together as a team. Mr. Sayers and his team of board members are always working together to make Amherst the best it can be.
People, they're very much in tune with what's happening here in the Amherst community, and we communicate often and on a regular basis, and we function very, very well as a team, and Amherst just as a whole. We have a great staff here in Amherst, and certainly our success is a result of a team effort.
After long hours at the office, the meetings with board members, or even making stops at local events, Mr. Sayers' work doesn't stop there. In fact, it has just as big of impact on himself as it does family.
When my dad was thinking about moving to Amherst, I really wanted him to get the job because I knew Amherst was a cool place. My dad's taught me a lot about education. I'm a teacher at Avon. I teach social studies at Avon High School, and a lot of the stuff that I use and do in school, my dad taught me. So he's had a big impact on my educational career, and so it's been a lot of fun. I'm really glad that he's here.
During the winter, it impacts my life when he has to get up at 4 or 4:30 and check the roads. He gets up, so therefore I get up, so I'm not a real big fan of that.
I get to see him around the high school, going in for a meeting with other administrators, and last good thing really is I get to talk to my dad about what the student body thinks about certain ideas or things that are going to happen in the school, and to voice that from the student opinion.
He's always kind of nagging about educational stuff, but at this point I just kind of learned to roll with it.
After being a superintendent for over 13 years, Mr. Sayers knows what it takes to put Amherst on top. You have to remember that with great power comes great responsibility, and by being superintendent, he always takes his work seriously. This is Reed Dobo for Steel News Live.
High school.
a time for hanging out with friends, football games, dances, and for some, relationships. High school romances are a common thing, but let's be honest, most of them won't last. Here at Steele, we have several staff members who have defied the odds and are still with their high school sweethearts.
My wife and I started dating in the fall of 1985. I was a sophomore, and she was a senior.
I actually saw him across the cafeteria one day and thought he was very handsome.
We actually found out that we had a common circle of friends, and ironically, those friends hung out in the 150 hallway, and that's where her locker happened to be.
Mr. Marty was the band president for marching band when he was a senior and I was a freshman, and I always just had a crush on him since then.
After high school comes college, and with that, distance. A lot of couples struggle with this, but it doesn't mean it can't be done.
There was no internet or cell phones, really. It was a lot of the letters.
With your cell phones and Skype and just being able to communicate is so much easier.
Most high schoolers don't know what they want to do after high school, much less who they're going to marry. But these teachers believe that you'll know if you belong with someone forever.
Your partner forever should be somebody that makes you laugh, that if you want kids, you know would be good with kids, that can compromise. And I just knew kind of early on that he had those qualities about him.
I thought we would get married, but after high school, he did not propose. I went to Mexico to study, and then he said, if you come back to me from Mexico, we'll get married.
It just was one of those things that you kind of know. You know, things just kind of clicked, especially when you could say that they're your best friend.
Relationships are not always easy, and sometimes you just want to give up. But these lifelong couples know the key to making a relationship work.
So I'd say communication is the key, and sometimes you got to be honest in your communication. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but you got to be honest.
Always be honest with each other and respect those differences.
Communicate with one another and have similar values, then you'll definitely last.
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of give and take. And if you really think you found the right person, it'll happen.
With communication and trust, you can make any relationship last. So don't give up on your loved one and just have hope. This is Rachel Lasso for Steele News Live.